There are very few single-player games that have truly infinite replayability, but the ones that do are usually extremely good games. Minecraft, Civilization, Don't Starve, and Factorio are some of the best indie games ever made, and one of the things that they all have in common is that it's very hard to get bored with them. Each new Minecraft world or Civilization session creates a completely new experience with a new environment and scenario. In Civ 5, you could play as Venice and get nuked by Gandhi, then start a new game and change it up to play as Russia and still get nuked by Gandhi. But the experience is different every time. Keeping on the topic of Civilization 5, it's not surprising that it ended up becoming such a cool game. There were 50 plus people who worked on it. That's a pretty big team for a game like that. But what if I told you that there's a strategy game that's even more impressive than Civilization, a lot more addicting, and with even more replay value? And that game was made primarily by one dude. I'm talking about Rimworld. Playing Rimworld is like learning how to play the guitar. You have to sit back and cultivate your skill, focusing on learning what's important and improving your technique throughout the process. Except this guitar is made out of spiky toxic metal that sometimes spontaneously combusts and can give you malaria. Oh, and spiders come out of it when the moon's in the wrong position. In this game, you control and manage a group of colonists who've crash landed on a distant planet. Your goal is to build up a colony, stay safe, advance your technology, and try to get off the planet. But this isn't your usual solve problems that you've created type game, where simple issues create simple and predictable problems. Like how in Oxygen Not Included, you could accidentally pollute your water supply if you put the toilets in the wrong place. No, my friend, Rimworld is much more complex. This asshole is one of the AI storytellers who changes your gameplay experience based on what's happening. For example, let's say you're a lone colonist named Massive Small Biggs, just trying to live out your life and build a mountain base on a strange planet. Then the Fire Nation attacks and you take a guy prisoner because you're lonely. You gotta use your medicine on him, which makes you not have enough medicine, which means that it takes you longer to heal, which causes you to not build up your defenses enough and then die to a singular rabid squirrel. And that is why Rimworld is so awesome. Thanks for watching. Anyways, enough blabbering. Rimworld is without a doubt one of the best indie games on Steam, and that seems to be a common agreement among thousands of people. It's one of the most addicting games I've ever played, and its design is top-notch. There are so many little mechanics that add to the quality of this game, and a lot of the time, you won't even realize it until you take a deeper dive. So in today's video, I'm going to dive into some of those things, discuss the mechanics and specifics of this one-of-a-kind title, and talk about why this guy will give you nightmares and ruin your social life, in today's video talking about why Rimworld is so awesome. Another thing that'll give you nightmares is a bad website. To avoid that problem, I've partnered with the sponsor of today's video, Zyro. Zyro is the best website builder that I've ever used. It's the most affordable option on the market, and even with the absurdly low prices starting at $3 a month, it packs an insane punch and is a great service. I recently decided to make a portfolio to show off some of my content to potential advertisers, and using Zyro was insanely easy and quick. With access to simple drag and drop editing and tons of designer-made templates, I made this entire homepage in less than 5 minutes, and I'm not even exaggerating. Their websites load extremely fast too, which is really nice when you want something simple and clean like I've made. And not to mention, if I ever have any questions, I could reach out to their 24/7 support team. If you're interested in making the highest quality website available for an extremely reasonable price, check out Zyro using code robokast or my link in the description for 3 extra free months with all yearly plans, a free domain for a year, and insane discounts. It's only available for a limited time though, so act fast. Thanks again to Zyro for sponsoring this video. Rimworld is one of the highest rated games on Steam with overwhelmingly positive reviews and an average playtime of 130.8 hours. Out of the 2 million plus people who've purchased this amazing game, on average they have 130.8 hours playing it. And you can't really blame them because, as I said before, Rimworld is one of the most captivating games I've ever played. And a good majority of this captivation stems from the story. On the surface, Rimworld doesn't really have a story other than, oh look, you crash landed, better escape. But when you begin to really dive into this game and spend some time playing it, you'll realize that the story's actually generated along the way. Action 1 will in fact lead to Action 2, but something else will almost always be thrown in along the way, changing your plan and making you have to rethink everything. Let's take a look at the tragic tale of my first colony, Shitville. I was struggling with my 4 colonists and was probably gonna die in the upcoming future. I just had a raid happen, so I wasn't that worried about another one for a little bit, and I was running dangerously low on supplies. So I took a big risk, set some traps, and sent my entire colony on a supply run. Warning, don't do this if you're playing Rimworld. No surprises here, but the second that I did this, someone decided to barge into Shitville and raid my base. They did a little bit of damage here and there and set some stuff on fire, but luckily they ended up walking into my trap and dying. So when I got back, I repaired my base and was feeling good, lucky to still be alive. And then a Megasloth decided to attack me. It severely injured 2 of my colonists, and as my doctor was carrying them back into the base to be saved, she stepped in the traps that were still there, causing her and the 2 other colonists to die. Yes, my friend, if things can go wrong in Rimworld, they most definitely will, so you have to prepare for the worst. You see, most management games are focused on doing tasks X, Y, and Z in order to keep things moving. But Rimworld is about living through the unpredictable stories that are generated for your colonists and solving the problems that arise because of them. The story unravels itself as you see the consequences of your prior actions, and you need to focus on damage control and preventing future situations from happening. Each and every colonist has specific personalities, connections, and bonds that can cause or fix problems in your game. Some colonists have a tendency to use drugs when they get stressed, which makes them become addicted and can cause a much bigger problem later on. Some colonists fall in love with each other, and then when one dies, the other one loses their mind and goes on a rampage destroying everything in your colony until you send another colonist to arrest them where they can stop. It is an absolute shit show most of the time, and that's what's so good about it. If everything had an easy solution, it would just be like every other management game. But it's not, and this is the reason why. Real life always has something that's unpredictable, and Rimworld mirrors that perfectly. These events that absolutely derail your gameplay aren't just limited to repeatable, predictable things like raids or angry colonists. The unpredictability continues with how ridiculous some of these events are. Sometimes you get attacked by poisonous attack squirrels, sometimes lightning just so happens to strike the most flammable and combustible room in your entire house, and sometimes it's stuff that you can't even explain. Like, look at this review. A guy killed 2 raiders and captured another, made him into a prisoner, decided to decorate his room with a statue, and the statue that the colonists created was a statue of the prisoner's 2 friends being killed, which caused the prisoner to have a mental breakdown and run around naked. You may think this review is a stretch, but stuff like this happens in Rimworld all the time, and the unpredictability helps to make it so awesome. In between managing each and every crisis that inevitably unfolds, you spend your time trying to manage your time. You need to work to progress in the game, gain a steady food supply, research new items, and protect yourself from raiders. Rimworld is one of the most engaging and strategic time management games I have ever played. There's always something to work on, and you usually have a limited amount of labor because you need to satisfy your colonists' needs as well as make progress. These colonists aren't mindless drones, they're real people with real personalities, quirks, and needs, and if you don't focus on them, they become like a needy girlfriend who always starts problems. So, in between caring for them, you gotta make some progress or the elements will end up killing you if the millions of other things don't. Food is a pretty big priority because you only start with a small amount and it doesn't last very long. And if you have a pet, well, kiss your food goodbye because Yorkshire Terriers have the appetite of 3 large elephants. So it's always a good idea to plant fields and grow something quick like rice while you can. Then you have to cook the food to use its full advantage, so you gotta make sure you have a colonist who's good at cooking. And if you want better food, you gotta mix your grown crops with meat, which means you also have to have a good hunter. And you need someone to clean up the blood from butchering where nobody gets sick. Each task creates more tasks that need to be done, which further intensifies your time management. Eventually, you'll get overwhelmed with the small amount of colonists you have, and you'll have to focus on getting more, usually by capturing them or wounding them in a raid. Honestly, captured prisoners are a huge strain on your time and resources, which means that until they convert over to your side, once again, you're gonna have to be conscious of your time management. It all goes full circle. Speaking of prisoners, they have been my downfall in most of my playthroughs. Going back to the lovely colonist of Massive Small Bigs, he was a rich solo explorer and he was tasked with starting a colony on his own. Turns out, he was terrible at pretty much everything and was struggling. So when a raider named Monkey attacked, I captured him and thought everything was gonna be better. But no, this stupid prisoner ate a majority of my food, which left me crunched for time, causing me to be underprepared and die to a rabid squirrel. It'd be like that sometimes. Regardless of how things work out, however, time management is one of the most important things in Rimworld, and you're gonna have to try your hardest to be good at it. There's a really simple and intuitive prioritization system that allows you to change what each colonist focuses on and in what order they do it. I really like this system, and it allows things to run exactly how you want it to be run. Plus, if something urgent happens, you can queue up priority tasks to make your colonists focus on whatever it is you're struggling with, allowing you to take manual override if needed. You can configure everything from storage items to allowed paths of travel to electric grid setups, and each of these things can make or break your productivity. As things progress, you need to focus on your end goal of getting off the planet. You do this by researching new technology trees, which you use to further your progression and eventually leave the planet and beat the game. I've never actually made it to this point because I either die or... yeah, actually that's pretty much the only reason. You start with fairly simple technology, and you can eventually create things like defense turrets, advanced weapons and armor, drug production, and more. Research is really the only way to progress in the game, and if you don't have anyone who's good at researching things, it's going to be a struggle for you. In fact, when you recruit your initial colonists, you need to make sure that you have people with a wide range of skills, because your colonist productivity and efficiency depends heavily on what they're good at. This is one thing that changes the gameplay drastically, compared again to a game like Oxygen Not Included. In that game, a duplicant is a duplicant, and it doesn't really make much of a difference who you have and who you don't. But in Rimworld, having a bad character can make or break your game. In my latest playthrough, it is pretty balanced with one person focused on farming, one on cooking and research, and one on mining and construction, with a few other traits filling in the remaining gaps. You'll often have visitors from other colonies who want to trade with you, and having colonists with good social skills will help you do that. Trading is a big aspect of the game, especially later on in your playthroughs, because good relationships with rival factions can be a blessing in disguise. But it all stems down to the skills of your colonists, and your gameplay will change drastically depending on what you decide to do. With all of these needy-ass colonists demanding your constant attention, you're going to want to make sure they have somewhere secure and comfortable to stay. Base building is the main focus of the game, and ensuring the longevity of your base is extremely important. You can start out with basic wood or steel walls to help keep you out of the elements, but you can eventually upgrade it to higher quality materials and add defenses to make it harder to get raided. My favorite design is putting a majority of the base inside of a mountain where it's nearly impossible to successfully raid, and it's a lot harder to catch on fire. Plus, you can add mortars, automatic guns, and all sorts of other technologies to help keep you safe and sound. But safety isn't everything, because the visual appeal of your base is important too. Things like room comfort and aesthetics help to keep your colonists at peak performance, and spreading things out is a good way to keep everyone productive and happy. Regardless though, the wide range of customization makes every experience feel different, and it helps to make Rimworld so awesome. Now, as you could probably tell, Rimworld is a very complex game with many different systems that play a big part in your gameplay. There's animal breeding, pets, combat, body augments like artificial arms and legs, caravans, and quite a few other things. In this video, I'm not going to go into detail about all of them, because the gist of these types of videos is to deliver the most important information in the shortest amount of time. Plus, I want to take a break from writing this script where I can go back and play Rimworld. But there is one other thing that I really need to touch on to help explain what makes this game so awesome: the modding. I've said this in the past about some other games, but Rimworld also has some of the best modding communities I have ever seen. I thought games like Stardew Valley had extreme modding communities, but Rimworld takes it to the next level. There are thousands of extremely high quality mods in Rimworld, and all of them can completely change your gameplay experience. I am not exaggerating. There are complete system reworks and mechanic overhauls, cosmetics mods, multiplayer mods, and more. It's quite impressive how many more hours you can put into the game if you dive into the modding community, and these mods can really turn Rimworld into an entirely different game. These mods, plus the amazing DLCs, help to make Rimworld an infinitely replayable and infinitely awesome game, and I 100% recommend it to anybody who likes this style of game. Sorry, I had some hiccups, but I promise you, you won't regret it. Like I said, I could spend a lot of time talking about this game, but I have to limit it to where the video isn't infinitely long. But even with the things I did talk about, I hope I can convince you to buy this title. So what are your thoughts on Rimworld? Do you think it deserves to be in the top Steam games of all time? And what are some of your crazy, unbelievable Rimworld stories? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to be it for today's video. Feel free to like and share with a friend, and maybe even subscribe if you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time, and peace.